So I'm going to talk very briefly about end users and AI, specifically focusing on some of what I've been looking at in terms of trust and liability in clinical practice and research. Thank you. I'm not going to be making an argument, but really just giving you an overview of some of the stuff I've been doing, and I stress with lots of other people. I've not done any of this by myself, in the hope that some of you might be interested in it and want to have a chat about it later. So very quick intro. I'm Professor of Empirical Bioethics and also Head of Population Health Sciences, so I'm kind of here in my medical school capacity as well. As a school, we're doing lots of work around AI and health across research and education. We're very keen to collaborate across schools and faculties, and I think we've got the same aim. So again, if anyone would like to just have a conversation about those collaborative opportunities, you'll hear from lots of my colleagues today as well, but please do just grab me over lunch. So I've already said that. So where I'm coming from, I initially trained in philosophy, then bioethics and medical ethics with a focus on methodology, really. And I only really became interested in AI in passing. I wasn't really interested in it. And then a PhD student came into my office with a nice idea about looking at responsibility and liability in clinical spaces. And it's expanded into collaborative work with colleagues in engineering, looking at trust and ethics and autonomous systems. And it's kind of spiraled from there. It's kind of the thing that I feel like I'm being sucked into, whether I like it or not. But fortunately, it is quite interesting. So I guess where I'm coming from, it's important because I don't think AI necessarily raises huge new problems for medical ethics that requires completely new tools and theories. I like what Emmanuel said, though, notwithstanding. So I think it certainly provides a new context in which long-standing debates are rehearsed, and it creates interesting and challenging new problems. But I don't think it demands the reinvention of medical ethics per se. So what I've done and what I'm doing with many others, well, I've kind of tried to categorize the work I've done and am doing. Some work around liability with Helen Smith. I thought she was in the room. I can't say. Oh, yeah, there she is. Looking at artificial intelligence in clinical decision-making and thinking about personal responsibility and liability. So when an AI is put into that clinical space, normally because it can do something that the human brain cannot, under what circumstances can a clinician as an end user ignore it when it thinks it's wrong? Or can it kind of do what it says even though it doesn't really understand what's going on? It puts the clinician, it kind of frames them as what Alicia's described as a moral crumple zone, where they're absorbing that responsibility and liability. I think we've done a lot of work on the engineering. We've done less work on how end users are actually going to feel about it. Language. I think language is increasingly important. The way we talk about AI really shapes the way people understand and conceptualize it and frames their relationships with it. So we've looked about the way we use language to talk about it. That's really relevant with trust. I'm starting to think we shouldn't be talking about trust as a relationship with technology. So I've done a lot of work about whether we should actually be talking about trust in technology or whether we're more appropriately talking about trust in the systems and the people around it. Is trust an apposite relationship or an apposite way to describe our relationship with technology? But again, that links very much to the use of language. With Matimba Swana, who's also in the room, and Sabine Howard, we're looking at how we actually utilize some of these technologies, particularly this, looking at using swarm robots to treat cancer. Again, thinking downstream, this technology is not ready yet. When it is, how can we actually use this for the first time in humans? Who wants to be the person to be injected with nanorobots for the first time? I use this as an example when I'm engaging with school children about ethics and medicine. There's always a couple of 13-year-olds who put their hands up and desperately want to be the first people to be injected with tiny robots. I don't know if anyone's keen here. No, I won't do the same. And then that all leads to thinking about governance and guidance as well. So again, this is linking all the way back to the first point about liability. If there is this liability problem, how can we design and develop guidance that actually works for end users? And we should be co-creating that. So what I'm thinking about going forwards, how should human-like AI be deployed and regulated, with Colin particularly, and thinking about synthetic subjects in research and as qualitative research participants, preparing the clinical workforce, how can we actually train the clinical workforce to work with AI, and I would like to think more about language and trust and whether kind of mischaracterizes, whether language of trust mischaracterizes and leads to misunderstandings about the appropriate relationship. I was going to explain that quote. It looks massively inappropriate. It's not. It's about using language to make somebody trust, even though that language might be inappropriate. And I'll stop there. Thank you.